What's happening, everybody? Hope you guys are having a good day. I am here in Louisville, Kentucky, and I just came back from Philly. Actually, Philly is one of my favorite cities. It's almost like a second home. I felt so much love there from the people, so much respect. I was treated well. I want to say thank you to those of you who came out. As you know, we've been going around the world to promote economic intelligence and financial literacy and wealth building, cooperative economics, entrepreneurship, etc., as well as education to as many Black people as possible. Not to tell you just what we believe you should be doing with yourself and your kids, but also what is possible, as well as providing blueprints. You know, we're partnering with educators all across the globe, wealth builders across the planet. The Black Business School is in full effect, and we have almost 40,000 students now. And every single week, we are talking about wealth building plans that are going to flip the Black community on its head in about 60 or 70 years. It's going to take a generation for this to actually kick in because we have to work with our kids. You know, if you don't, we got to go through the children. If we don't do that, then it's going to be hard for us to do it because so many of us have been brainwashed, distracted, et cetera, et cetera. Now, with that said, some people have asked me, about this interview with Roland Martin and Umar Johnson. And I thought it would be fun to kind of just share my point of view on it because I thought it was interesting. It was a great interview. I'm glad Roland interviewed Umar. I think that Umar is definitely an interesting topic of conversation. He reps himself, in ways that are attention grabbing. Let me just say that, before we get into it. And for the sake of full disclosure, people ask me about Roland and Umar, and I've interacted with both of them quite extensively. And it's ironically, neither one of these guys likes me that much. And I think it's because they're both a little on the sensitive side. Sometimes you have people where if you critique them or disagree with them once or twice, they have a hard time sort of accepting that. And I know that where Roland and I, weren't as connected as I wanted us to be. I wanted to be Roland's friend. I had no problem staying friends with him, but he kind of, I guess, maybe his feelings were hurt. I'm not sure, but back when CNN was trying to get him over that gay thing, where he said a comment about homosexuality, and they called him a homophobe, and I felt like Roland should have apologized. And I wrote an article, and someone asked me what I thought, so I shared my honest opinion. But unfortunately, in this space, we kind of live in an era where we gotta learn a little bit more about what adequate Black leadership looks like. I think that you sometimes get a lot of guys that have, sometimes their ego can get in the way. Let me just say that. I'm not making fun of anybody or criticizing anybody because, I mean, shoot, for all I know, I know I make mistakes all the time. But I think sometimes we get to the point where we let personal differences keep us from get us to a point where we cannot even work together, on issues where we agree. And so what I decided to do, my position on Roland and Umar, if you want to know my official position is that if they're pushing for something that I agree with, I'm going to support them. I don't give a fuck if you hate my guts and want to kill me. If you're fighting on behalf of Black people in a way that makes sense to me, I will go out of my way to support you. And so this interview, it doesn't mean I support you entirely as a person. It doesn't mean I like you entirely. It doesn't mean I agree with everything you say. It means on that issue, we can work together. If it's something else, I might say, that's something, don't do that. And I run into, yeah, and you have to be able to do that, I think, in our community, the way things are right now, because, people are very diverse, and you got some people that, unfortunately, they don't even realize they become agents for the Democratic Party, where anything the Democratic liberals tell them to talk about, they'll start talking about it. Oh, the Democrats talking about immigration. Oh, we're going to talk about immigration. Democrats are talking about gay rights. Oh, we need to get up on gay rights now. Feminism. Oh, we gonna all be feminists, even though Black women ain't got no business being no feminists. You deserve equal rights. You deserve to have your power. But those white feminists, those white women don't like you. And I think that a lot of Black women don't get that. And I think that smart Black women understand that true sovereignty means having your own movement that represents the people that you truly love. And I, as a Black man, can't support white feminism because around every corner, they're stealing they're stealing resources from Black people. They're stealing the masculinity of Black men. You know, they're attacking us. So I can't support somebody that attacks us. So I think that we have to sort of stop supporting people across a whole ticket, meaning I support you on this and this and this and this and this and everything you believe in. I think you can sort of do a la carte. You can say, okay, I'm gonna ride with Umar on that, but over here, I'm not gonna ride with him on that, right? So anyway, without going into it too far, I wanted to. I was just in Umar City. I was in Philly for the whole weekend, and you know, for those of you who came out, thank you for supporting. It was we had an awesome panel. Chuck Creekmer from allhiphop.com and Kenny Gamble from Gamble and Huff was there, as well as Carvin Haggins, who's one of the actually creators of the whole neo soul regime in Philly, was there. And these guys gave me the honor of joining me on the panel. And what was really cool about it was all we talked about was the Black community. You know, that was it. That was the top agenda. It was the Black community, wealth building, building strong, you know, families, educating our kids. And that was it, you know, and I think that Black people got to get used to that. We got to put Black people at the top of the agenda, the middle of the agenda, and the bottom of the agenda, because we got a lot of work to do. So when you got Black people on TV, mainstream Negroes who looking for a job at CNN, who spend more time talking about immigration than they spend talking about Black people, I ain't got time for all that. I ain't got time for all that. When Black people are a footnote to your dialogue, then in my opinion, you are pretty much a white liberal in blackface. You're not a Black person. And so before I even jump into it, I'm actually going to play a little bit of this video. I'm not going to show you the clip because I don't want it's a copyright thing. I want to respect News One Now's video. But before I jump in, I'm going to say this. Here's one area where I support Umar wholeheartedly in this debate. And he carried himself well. You know, I'll tell you what I think, honestly. I'll give you my honest take on everything. Where I stand with him on this issue is that, you know, I think that you can at least give him credit for the fact that Black people are at the top of his agenda. You know, those other Black folks that were up there, they work for white people. Most of them do, all of them, to some extent, even Roland. I mean, I don't even know much about TV One and Radio One, but I have had people, I'm not going to lie to you, I've had people from Radio One come to me and complain about racial discrimination. And I was like, what are you talking about? It's a Black company. And they said, no, let me show you who's actually calling the shots, you know, within Radio One. So I don't know if you can correct me. Please send me an email and correct me and tell me where I'm wrong. But email my assistant. Her email address is staff@boycewatkins.com. That's staff@boycewatkins.com. So if somebody from Radio One wants to correct the narrative, please do. Because I can tell you that I've had people that work there, Black people, come to me and say, it's racist in this company. I'm like, I don't even understand that. So, you know, so at the end of the day, you know, what I'm saying to you is that, and this is me supporting Umar's position, whether Umar likes me or not. Y'all might know the history. Y'all know me and Umar ain't the best of buddies, and it ain't got to be that way. We ain't got to go sit down and hang out and be best friends. But I'm going to choose what I support and don't support. And I'm going to tell you, in this particular situation, I found myself leaning a little more toward him than toward the panelists. Because the panelists, I know where they're coming from. I know what they're going to say before they open their mouth. I know what the Black Republicans going to say. I think one of the brothers was a Republican. I know what the guy from the Democratic Party is going to say. And I know what the feminist is going to say. Like, you just kind of know. And to me, there were no Black people on that panel. There were white liberals in blackface. That's what they were to me. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I see. And unfortunately, because Black people don't have any equity, any sort of sovereignty in terms of who they are, what we do is we play for the team that's winning. We just play for the team that can give us a paycheck. That's what it is. You know, we play for the team that can get us on TV. You know, and the best way to get on TV, if you don't know how to create your own, you know, outlets or distribution, is to go get down with the white liberals, and white liberals will take good care of you. There's good money in that. I mean, if you get the white liberals to like you, you're good. The problem is you unfortunately are selling out your community in the process. In fact, let me just play some of this, and I'll play it. And because I'm gonna get caught on a tangent. And by the way, I don't know if I mentioned to you guys, if you want a free e-copy of my book, you can go to drboycewatkins.net. That's drboycewatkins.net. You can also get a free wealth building lesson there, absolutely free. If you ain't got no money, that's okay. In fact, in Philly, our tickets were donation only. The tickets to each session were built on a donation base, which meant that it didn't matter how much money you had, you could come in, because we want to educate everybody. We want to get millions of people, to join the Black economic empowerment movement, where our goal is to create a whole generation, an economic army of children that are going to go clean up the ghettos. They're going to really be able to do the work and not just be on TV talking, but actually be out here doing stuff. Anyway, let me go into this interview. So you can hear the audio, but I won't do the video. So you hear Roland's voice.
105.1 FM out of New York Breakfast Club with DJ NB, Angela Yee, and Charlamagne the God. During the interview, Johnson talked about a whole range of it. It led to him being the talk of Black Twitter last week. A lot of people were questioning his educational credentials.
Now, people ask me, what can we expect from a Donald Trump White House for Black America? And the answer is real simple. You can expect exactly what you got from an Obama White House. Absolutely nothing. Black people know they're not American, but they will fight like hell to protect that identity. They don't want to be identified with who they really are, and that's being African.
Those are okay. So first 2 points, what he said about Trump and Obama, he's right. I think it's very, very hard to see. Here's the thing. Obama was a great president for America. He was a great president for white people. He wasn't the president that's really achieving, pushing us toward true equality as Black people. A lot of people have, in high places, Negroes in high places. I'm talking about the Black folks that got the good jobs and that have power. They've kind of abandoned Black people the same way we abandoned the hood. You ever have people that say, I want to get out of the hood, so I'm gonna go out and live in the suburbs, and I don't ever want to go back to the hood again. Only the strong will return to the hood and actually try to fix the hood. So most of your Black elite have abandoned your community as if you are the hood. They sort of say, well, man, you can't put it on him to try to fix the whole Black community. Look at how fucked up Black people are. That's kind of the narrative that you hear. That's literally what the way people will talk about the Black community when it comes to asking a politician to actually do anything for Black people. And so as a result, you did have a presidency where a lot wasn't done for Black people. And so when Trump got elected, I just wasn't really afraid. I was like, well, I mean, okay, things suck for Black people, and they're probably gonna keep on sucking until we do something about it. And I don't really know if waiting on scraps and little chips and chirps and tiny little contributions from the power elite is actually gonna get us anywhere. I don't think, I mean, think about this. Do you really, deep down in the bottom of your heart, on any level, I mean, do you really, truly think that the Black community will ever be saved by voting for the right politician? Do you? I mean, do you really ever believe we're going to have any president, even a blackety black president, that will actually save the Black community, that will really do the right thing and really clean up the hood and make our community better? I don't know about you, but I don't believe that, so I think that he's right about that, about Obama. And then he made the second point about Black folks defending America because they don't want to be identified as African. We know that's true. I mean, Black people don't. We believe all the stereotypes and all the lies that were told to us about Africa. And so as a result, we don't, I know Black people, I know people who have African blood where maybe their grandfather was from Ghana or Nigeria, and they don't even want to go to Africa, but they want to go to Europe all day long. It's kind of strange.
As long as you have a skill, you can always feed your family. But if all you got is college degrees, you might end up in the unemployment line.
Another good point. He said another thing. He said, as long as you got skill, you will always be able to feed your family. But as long as you get college degrees, you might end up in the unemployment line. Now, this is not saying that a college degree is a bad thing. What it is saying is that a college degree probably shouldn't be the only thing. Ultimately, you have a lot of people, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people out here that got the college degree, and all they got was $100,000 in debt, and they can't get a job because you don't really know how to actually build nothing or do nothing. You just know how to show a piece of paper that will allow you to become a high-paid laborer for somebody else. So ultimately, anybody who goes to college, if you have children that are on their way to college, I talked to a woman today at my grandma's funeral, and she was telling me her daughter was about to head to college and her son in a couple of years. I said, make sure that boy, I said, he's going to study business, but make sure he knows how to start a business, not just work for an existing business. Black folks know all day about how to work for a business that's in existence, but we don't know nothing about actually creating a business of our own. So that's another point for Umar. I should literally keep points here to see if Umar wins the basketball game, because I don't care. I told you guys, I don't care if Umar likes me or not. If he says something that's right, I'm gonna agree with him. Let's keep going. All right, next.
I'm a psychologist. Ain't too many Black people running around looking for a psychologist to reveal all the skeletons in their closet.
All right, folks, joining us right now, Dr. Umar Johnson. Welcome back to the show. First and foremost, it was amazing looking at this whole reaction. I mean, I'm sitting here, again, people asking all kind of questions. Things are blowing up, and so many people jumped on saying he's not a real doctor. Mm-hmm. Okay, where did you graduate from, and you got your PhD?
Mm-hmm. My undergraduate education was from Millersville University. 3 degrees, political science, psychology, master's in school psychology. Subsequent to that, Pennsylvania certification as a school psychologist, which I've been for almost 20 years. After that, I got my educational leadership master's degree and principal certificate from Lehigh University in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And I earned my doctorate degree from the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine, American Psychological Association approved program, one of the top psychology training programs on the East Coast. 6 degrees in all, and anyone can lift up the telephone and call and verify those degrees.
So,
okay. Now let me tell you what I think about that Umar's answer. Now I haven't verified it. I don't do research into his background. What I think is fascinating though is even though any of us would have a right to question what we want to question. A couple of things I never understood. I never understood why it was so difficult for people to verify the information in the first place. I've seen people, smart people, write detailed articles investigating Umar's background and things like that. And I honestly think if Umar had conducted himself differently when he collected all that money, I don't think all these questions would have been laid out there on the table. I think Umar could have avoided a lot of this scrutiny, because here's the thing. Most of the Black people that you listen to, most of the so-called leaders that you listen to in this country don't have even a fraction of the education that Umar Johnson has. So let's say that he didn't finish his doctorate. Let's say that, he left, what they call ABD, all but dissertation. So what? He's still got far more education than the Oprah Winfrey's. He's got far more education than even the Barack Obamas and a lot of other people. Barack's got a law degree, and I think maybe I know a law degree, a bachelor's degree, and he might have a master's, but Umar has a lot of education too. And here's the other thing too. Malcolm X, he didn't have any of that. He didn't have any education at all in terms of formal education. He didn't have any paper to show what kind of person what kind of scholar he could be and all that. But we know Malcolm was a brilliant person. We know Malcolm was certainly an educated person. He just didn't go to school as much as everybody else. And so one thing you want to know about education is this. Look, going to school is not the same as being educated. And if you're not careful, when white folks are educating you, what you think could be an education is actually an indoctrination. So your brain is filled with all this stuff, and you think, well, now that my brain's filled with stuff, I'm better than other Negroes. I've got my JD, PhD, LD, QBC, and MVP, and MTV. I got all my letters behind my name. That makes me special. Well, let me tell you what. I know a bunch of highly educated, dumbass motherfuckers. I know a lot of scholars, a lot of PhDs who are incredibly misguided in their thinking. A lot of PhDs who literally aren't just ill-informed on the things that matter in the world, but they actually gain this arrogance that comes with thinking that they're educated. See, an ignorant person I can work with. I can deal with an ignorant person as long as they know they're ignorant, as long as they know they don't know nothing, and they say, hey, I'm ignorant, but I want to learn. I'd rather talk to that person than the person who is ignorant but thinks they know everything. And that's what you have. And I was in academia for over 24 years. I have the PhD too. I have the letters behind my name. I got a bunch of degrees that I can recite and all that stuff. But I'm gonna tell you what, there's a big difference between going to school for a long time and actually truly being educated. And so you can call out Umar on a lot of stuff. There's a lot of areas for criticism for sure. Like his whole thing with Sarah Sunsetti, I just thought that was a bad chess move. I didn't understand that, to be honest with you. I felt like Umar should have kept his cool. But you can't tell me Umar's not an educated person. Umar Johnson is an educated man. And the fact that he has to go through in detail and defend every little credential as if we're looking for something to poke away and discredit, the entirety of what he's saying is a serious problem. I need people go talk. What's Roland Martin's credentials? What does he have a doctorate degree? What about those people on the panel? Do they got what PhD did they get? I bet you none of them motherfuckers got a PhD. So again, my 2 cents is it don't matter, man. Seriously. I mean, if you're gonna have an issue with Umar, have an issue over something that matters. I don't think this is a big deal. The only extent to which it can be a big deal, though, however, is that there is the integrity issue. There's been a lot. You see, what Umar really needs is he needs a PR specialist right next to him to control, that he trusts, that will control everything that comes out of his mouth. Because what happens is he gets this extra scrutiny that comes from things that he did to himself. It's self-sabotage. Like the way the whole stripper thing was handled. I feel like that was handled wrong. And it led to a sort of a cascade of people jumping all over him when I think it could have been washed away very, very quickly. And this is where, if he and I were friends and we're talking, this is where I'd say, look, man, here's how I think you should handle this. But anyway, let me keep going. Let me keep going through the interview. This is about those two, not just me.
When you see folks who question your degrees, your response?
It's because my narrative is a whole lot different from the average mainstream Black scholar. I don't parrot the narrative that the American social order wants Black scholars to parrot. I tell the truth. I don't scratch unless I itch, and I don't dance unless I like the music. And because they're not used to having someone with traditional education, positive, non-traditional views, people will automatically start to question his credentials. How did he get this far believing what he believes in? Well, you have to play the spook who sat by the door. When I got accepted into those 3 universities, they didn't know what I believed in. They didn't know what I stood for. But as time went on, it revealed itself. But
now that, I think that's a good point. I think that Umar is correct in the sense that there are people that will challenge any Black man who tries to remain strong in his position. I think that there are parts of Umar that, he's a little bit of a old school Black male. He's not been emasculated. The easiest way for Black men to rise in American society is to be weak, gay, or just sort of folding to a white supremacy. And so what Umar's talking about in terms of people poking at you because you don't fit in, that I understand very well as well. I mean, I've had that happen to me. I've had people say, oh, well, that's not a real PhD. Where'd you get your PhD from? Unfortunately, I mean, I have good credentials. You can look them up. It's easy to defend. But what does happen is that when a Black man or Black woman does not sort of fit into some sort of stupid, historically stereotypical box in their commentary, they are going to be attacked. Now, I think where Umar is, where I can't say I agree with him, entirely, is this idea that he's getting these challenges just because he's speaking in a way that's disconnected from the traditional narrative. I think he gets a lot of the challenges, again, due to self-inflicted mistakes that he makes. I think sometimes he's a little too sensitive. I've seen him blocking people from his Facebook page because they didn't agree with him. I've seen him block people because they asked what happened to the money, and I think that really speaks to some sort of, I don't know if it's an insecurity or it's a vulnerability or if it's a fear. If somebody's saying, speak the truth. Oh, speak the truth, Umar. I thought you said speak with Umar. I would talk to him. If Umar wanted to come on my podcast, I would be happy to have him here and talk it out and just kind of let him defend his point of view, because I don't, no matter how much the guy dislikes me, I don't dislike him. And I think that's another thing. That's a paranoia thing where you get, so sometimes when people are coming at you from every direction, you think everybody's your enemy. And I think that Umar would be strengthened if he would, sort of know who his friends are and who his enemies are. So I think that there are people out there that might have supported him, but maybe they don't because there was some sort of personal thing that came up, or he just got antsy because the person said something they didn't like. It's very strange. So I think that overall, there's certainly a uniqueness to Umar that causes his message to be distorted. I think that if Umar were able to stay a little more focused, he could be very impactful. He's one of the best speakers in this world. In fact, when I'm watching the beginning of the interview, I said, okay, look, it looks like he's getting coached by somebody, which is what he needs, and I think that's good. I think that what happens though toward the end, as the interview moves on, though, is kind of him becoming more unleashed. And I just kind of think that part of leadership means knowing how to keep your cool. And I'm not sure if he's fully developed that skill yet. But let me go ahead and take a look at this.
I'm unapologetically African, so I'm not really concerned with what people think about me personally. I have a job to do, and that is to awaken the sleeping consciousness of African people, not just in America, but all across the world.
One of the things that you said during the interview, you said that Mandarin was one of the official languages in South Africa.
Yes, sir.
And others said you were dead wrong.
Yes, because I didn't clarify that I was speaking of it being an official language in the public school system of South Africa. So I should have clarified that Mandarin is an official language in the Republic of South Africa's school system. It's not an official language in the country. It's an official language in the school system. And I was speaking of schools, but I didn't clarify that. So that's my responsibility.
Also, during that particular interview, you talked about a variety of issues that also got people talking. One of them dealt with your views on interracial marriage.
Yes, sir.
And so, so explain that for folks who did not hear it.
Certainly. Simply put, any black man who is with a woman who's not an African herself is going to have a difficult time getting respect from me. I believe black men need to be with black women. The black family is under attack. Only 1 out of every 4 black women gets married. The black woman is last likely to get married. She's the last married, the first divorced. We have what? 2/3 of our children being raised by working class and impoverished single black female-led households. The destruction of a nation begins in the home of its families. And if we want to save black people, we have to save the black family. And in order to do that, black men have to commit themselves to black women.
So when you talk about not getting your respect, so if that's the case, you're saying President Barack Obama to get your respect because his dad married a white woman?
Oh, not at all.
With Harry Belafonte?
Not at
Okay, now let's talk about that. In terms of Umar and his position on interracial marriage, I think it's definitely a bold position to take. I think it's very difficult to classify every marriage that you see in a certain way because, love is unique. Every love affair has its own idiosyncrasies, its own individual. I gotta get my phone.
It's 7:47 p.m.
Sorry guys, my phone alarm went off because tonight I'm going to be teaching the Black Wealth Boot Camp. Okay, I'm gonna turn this off. But I think that every relationship has its idiosyncrasies, right? And I think that the challenge is that you can't sort of put them all in a box, right? Now, with that being said, I agree that the black man should be married to the black woman. I know personally, I would only marry a black woman. I would never marry a woman who wasn't black. And it's not so much because I hate everyone else. It's because I just love black people and I love my community. And I feel that my obligation is to the black community, right? Now, does that give me the right to judge other people and to attack their relationships or to define their relationships without knowing them? I think that's a dangerous area to go into. I don't think that that's a healthy way to look at things. And I've seen some marriages that are interracial that with good people, and even, in fact, I knew a black man who married a white woman and she was blacker than him. She was an African American studies major or something, and so she would tell him black history and he didn't want to hear it, which was the weirdest thing in the world. So I think that you can't classify every relationship. At the same time, though, I don't think there's a whole lot wrong with what Umar said on that. I think that rather than saying I'm going to judge you and disrespect you because you chose to marry outside your race, I think it might be better to say I encourage black men to stop neglecting black women and to give them the love that they deserve, because he's absolutely correct in that black men have really let down black women. I've seen black men who won't date a black woman. I mean, literally will not date a black woman. In LA, on our panel this weekend, we had in Philly, we had Jay Ortiz on the panel, rapper. He said in LA, he was working at a club and they literally at the club refused to let black women even come into the club. And so this is the kind of disrespect black women receive on a regular basis. They've been sort of broken down by white supremacy because their primary protectors have been destroyed by the system. I personally think that there's nothing wrong with sort of talking about interracial relationships in an honest way, because there are a lot of black people who marry interracially because they believe black people are inferior, or they believe that the other gender is inferior. I'm talking about women who do this too. You ever see a black woman who marries a white man because she says all black men are garbage, or black men don't treat me right, and black men this, and when really the reason you might not have been treated well is because you're not a good person yourself. And so I think across the board, I think it's okay to talk about interracial relationships. And I think the challenge with what Umar said is that when you say that, now here's an interesting thing. When you say that a man can't get respect for marrying interracially, then you're talking about a lot of, black men that are highly respected, and you're sort of shifting a paradigm where people say, well, wait a minute, I can't, challenge Harry Belafonte. I can't challenge Frederick Douglass. But what he did say, pay attention now. He said, if you are in an interracial relationship, you have a hard time getting respect from me. He did not say you can't get it. He's saying you have a hard time getting it, which means that you have to prove it to him, right? So I don't think he's saying, I don't respect Harry Belafonte. I don't respect Frederick Douglass. I think he's saying, you gotta have to, tell me why you married that white woman. And in that regard, I can't say I'm too different. I would say when I see an interracial relationship, I'm like, okay, so tell me about what happened here. What's going on? And so because I do know people who hate black people, who literally are like, I want to marry a white person because black people are inferior. And but I don't think I have the right to say that all interracial relationships are wrong or bad. And in fact, some people, join an interracial relationship, they overcompensate. They want to go to every march, every rally. They want to participate in every black initiative because they feel that guilt. And I think that that's perfectly fine too. By the way, if you didn't know about the All Black National Convention, it's going to go down September 29th through October 1st in Louisville, Kentucky. That's where I am right now. It's going to be in a couple months. So mark it on your calendar now. All Black National Convention taking place at Simmons College, the 107th HBCU in America. It's going to be amazing. We're going to talk about black issues in an unapologetic way. And even Umar's invited. So if Umar sees this video, just hit me up, man. I would never block you from speaking your piece. We don't even have to agree or like each other, because I'm just not really in this game to be sitting around fighting with black people, especially if I think that what you're doing can be helpful to people. I think that what Umar is trying to do can be helpful. I just don't think that Umar is always as measured as he should be. I think he needs to be a little bit more careful in terms of how he uses his words. But then again, he's a grown man, so who am I to tell him what to do? All right, let's read this.
I want to be very clear about something. As Pan-Africanists, the product of an interracial union is an African. I have heroes who are biracial. Some of the grandfathers of Pan-Africanism were of mixed racial ancestry. You don't blame a child for how they got here.
But I'm asking you this here. Harry Belafonte is a white wife. No respect for him?
It would be very, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter your social status.
No. I didn't say social. I'm talking about the one who put the word
right, but you put him out.
No. I'm asking you. So Harry Belafonte,
yes, sir.
Sidney Poitier, Julian Bond, Vernon Jordan.
And you're naming all them to say what?
No, these are all African American men who have.
Now you make a good point. Bank 80 says you weren't measured at all the time, Boyce. That's absolutely correct. You're absolutely 100% correct. Just because I make the mistake don't mean I can't point it out. It doesn't mean I'm sitting here pretending to be perfect. I'm certainly not perfect. But I can say that the whole rant that Umar did was with that guy Sarah Sunsetti, whatever his name was. I thought that was just over the top. I think that, when you sit on there, you calling another black man nigga, and I'm melanated bitch and all this other stuff. I think that's a little too much. And I think that's a side of himself he should have kept to himself. I really think that people, when they're following you, I think they kind of need you to kind of keep your cool a little bit, and believe me, there've been times where I wanted to really, say some stuff that I shouldn't say. And sometimes it leaks out, but when I'm in my right mind, it doesn't, So I think that was something that should be scrutinized. I think also when he called the stripper girl, when he called her a maggot, I don't think y'all didn't hear me call Yvette Carnell a maggot. And believe me, was I mad? Yeah, I was absolutely upset. Did I feel betrayed and hurt? Absolutely. But I would never show that kind of disrespect toward her, no matter what she says to me. So I think that just, in general, as leadership, so-called leadership, whatever it is we're supposed to be, I think that we have to have the ability to, as men, sort of separate our emotions from the agenda. And one of the biggest adversaries or challenges for men or hurdles is ego. Ego can just take you down. When you start thinking it's all about you and it's not about the people, or you start getting, just prickly sensitive to anything anybody says about you, it's not going to work in this game. So anybody out here who's watching, who's trying to, have a platform or get your name out or be public, just know, like, you're going to have to get to a point where you're going to have to let stuff go. People who do a good job with this, honestly, are Jay-Z and Beyonce. Like, you notice you don't really see Beyonce go off on Twitter over nonsense ever. Beyonce is very focused on the goal, and believe me, I'm sure she hears what everybody says, but she's very, very good at keeping her cool and focusing on what her goal is. Her goal might be to sell records. It might be to make her point in a specific way. But, I think that you can learn from that, So anyway, let me keep going. Let me watch more of this video.
who have done some good things.
No, we marry white women. But you said any black man who marries a white woman will not get your respect.
Can I respond?
Yeah, go ahead.
And what I'm telling you is this. I don't care who you name. I don't care how much work you did for black people. Your greatest commitment to black people is being committed to a black woman. It is still a contradiction. No matter how much you think you did for the struggle, if you really were concerned with black people, you would have committed yourself to a black woman. So it doesn't matter how successful they are. It doesn't matter how great you may claim them to be. At the end of the day, you didn't think enough about your own people to marry a woman who looks like you.
Frederick Douglass.
Yes, sir. An ancestor of mine.
So when you say ancestor, what does that mean?
Let me break it down.
Because again, some have said you tried to claim that you are a descendant of Frederick Douglass.
Okay, so let's deal with that.
So hold on one second. Here's a statement from the family. Let me go ahead and read this, please. The family of Frederick Douglass has received numerous inquiries about Umar Johnson questioning his relationship to Frederick Douglass. There have also been questions about his legitimacy of his PhD and the handling of the donations he's received for his school that he is promoting. We can tell you with 100% certainty that he is not a descendant of Frederick Douglass. With that being said, Mr. Johnson is very careful not to bill himself as a descendant, but he doesn't correct people when they refer to him in this way. He calls himself a blood relative, which is a nebulous reference designed to make people think he is a descendant. We have researched his explanation of being a blood relative to the great abolitionist. Some of the information he provides is accurate, but an extremely important piece of his explanation with regards to a documented relative of Frederick Douglass is false. The information he recites correctly is from the public record, so his knowledge of our family ancestry is far from definitive proof.
Two things there. One, he's not a descendant of Frederick Douglass. Okay, I would concur with that. All right. But then two, you also heard that some of the things he says is correct. So the question becomes, he's either related or he's not. Okay.
So are you related?
I'm about to answer your question.
Okay.
Allow me to do that. I am a blood relative of Frederick Douglass. My name is on the family tree. We have a family reunion every 2 years. What they're talking about, I want to make sure you're clear. They're talking about whether or not I come through the loin of Frederick Douglass, which I do not, nor have I ever claimed. Okay. I have more videos on YouTube than any other scholar. I speak around the world more than any other scholar. Show me where I've ever said I was a descendant. I've only claimed one thing, kinsman. How am I kinsman? If you ever read any of the autobiographies of Frederick Douglass, he talks about growing up on Tuckahoe Creek with Cousin Stephen. Cousin Stephen is Stephen Bailey, Dr. Umar Johnson's 4 times great-grandfather, whose grave I just visited last week. I go every year. Okay, that's my 4 times great-grandfather. He married my 4 times great-grandmother, Caroline Wilson Bailey. From that union came my 3 times great-grandfather, George Washington Bailey, the first black public school teacher on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. He married Grandmom Annie. They had Grandmom Caroline. Okay, she had Grandma Vivian. Grandma Vivian married a Spanish-speaking Cuban immigrant, Grandpa Cicero. They had Grandmom Ida, who's still alive, who married James Johnson, who had my father Jamal, who married my mama Barbara, and from that union I was born. I am a blood of Bailey. I am not married in. What they're talking about is strictly descendancy, something I've never claimed. Am I a kin? Do I directly come from the loin of the first cousin and potentially half brother of Frederick Douglass? And the reason I say potentially, the slave master who owned our family, a white man named Aaron Anthony, raped Frederick's mother and raped Stephen's mother, my ancestor. And there's significant evidence to suggest that. Some people could still argue, though, that they were not brothers because it's not conclusive. Fine, throw that out. I'm still a kinsman because I come through the blood of his first cousin.
You talk about, again, respect. You respect.
I don't talk about respect. I get tremendous respect.
I'm not talking about that. Do you respect Frederick Douglass?
Obviously, yes.
But he had a white wife.
He did.
So that's what I'm
going to clarify.
Why is that an issue? Why is that if you put in the work and you have the history, who cares who you marry?
I already answered that question, and I told you I don't care how much work you put in. If you don't commit yourself to a black woman, ultimately you wasn't totally committed to the struggle.
Even Frederick Douglass
has to be criticized, as I did on the Breakfast Club. Now it has to be put in context. He didn't marry the white woman until he was an old man. After his wife Anna Murray Douglass of 50 years, a blue-black chocolate woman through whom all my cousins were born. He was an old man when he did it, but nonetheless he did it. And yet.
And let me just say this: I'm listening to this. And you have to give Umar his props. I mean, he's holding his ground. He's making his point. He's making it clear. He's articulate with it. He broke down his lineage, in very good detail. And Roland backed off. Eventually Roland let go, moved on to the next topic. Almost like he was satisfied with the answer. And so, again, if when Umar's screwing up, I think you should be honest about that. But when he does something right, you have to give him credit for when he does something right. And he did this interview very well. I didn't know what the interview was about. I didn't know if Roland was having him on to try to help him save his reputation, or if Roland was going to challenge him, or what. I don't know much about their relationship, but I do know that he held his ground very well and dealt with all the questions. And somebody mentioned that article that was in the Root, and I'm gonna tell you the problem with the article that was written about Umar in the Root is that, and again, you're talking to somebody who I did a video where I said that this is why I'm done with Umar Johnson, because I didn't like the way he kind of responded when Maria Lloyd challenged him. About that money. I think that's a legitimate question. I think people have a right to ask. You can't collect people's money and then not answer them when they ask you what happened to the money. I think that's not healthy. It's not safe. It could be illegal. It's just not cool. It breaks down the trust that is necessary for the Black community to build and do crowdfunding and to raise money together. When you got people saying, well, we're not going to support what you're doing because that Umar guy, I gave him a bunch of money and he didn't actually build the school. Now, if Umar builds a school, then everything is good. But when you are blocking people from your Facebook page because they ask you about the money, then that's a problem. But anyway, just kind of going back into this, I feel like Umar has, he's answered the questions very well. I think he answered about his lineage very well. That article in the Root that was written about Umar was written from a really terrible place. It was written it was written by one of those white liberals in blackface that I always talk about. The Root is not a Black publication. Let's just be clear. They're owned by Hispanics who want to control what Black people talk about. They want to control Black news. There's the same thing the Jews do, same thing white folks do, same thing everybody else does, if you're dumb enough to fall for that. So what happened in the Root, and some of their work is not bad. But unfortunately, these are Black people who don't know much about building anything of their own. So they're looking for anybody's plantation they can attach themselves to. So the Root is another plantation filled with white liberals in blackface. And what they do is they tend to attack anybody who doesn't fit the white liberal agenda. The white liberal agenda means you have a specific script you must follow when it comes to gay rights. You have a specific script you must follow when it comes to immigration. You have a specific script you must follow when it comes to feminism. If you deviate from that prescribed agenda, that propaganda, that brainwashing program, you will be flicked out and eliminated. So what has occurred is that, again, if you go to the Black Lives Matter website, blacklivesmatter.org or .com, whichever one it was, I think it was .org, you'll find that they mention the police killing Black people. They mention struggle of the mothers. They mention the struggles of LGBT, but not one mention is made that I saw anywhere of Black fathers. So effectively, my interpretation of all of this madness, which tells me Black people need to take the wheel in our movement. My interpretation of the madness is that that the white liberals are in cahoots in terms of participating in a broad plan to exterminate any sort of relevance or power of the Black male, unless he's effeminate or unless he's gay. In those cases, you're gonna get all kinds of cheers and hoots and hollers. They're gonna love you to death. But if you're just an old school Black man, the James Evans Jr. type or whatever, then they're gonna come after you. They pretty much think that, because what happens is they think of Black male strength as sort of representing patriarchy, which is like a cuss word for them. So effectively, they attack strong Black men like my father. My father was, he was the king of the house. My mother was the queen. My parents been married 40-something years. My grandfather, I buried my grandma today. My grandfather was the king of the house for 70 years. And he and my grandmother were married. Their 70th wedding anniversary was last week. They did 70 years together. And when my grandmother got Alzheimer's and couldn't remember who we were, my grandfather bathed her, fed her, clothed her, carried her around the house, and took care of her until her very last breath. That was real Black love. That was a Black marriage that lasted. But I'm going to tell you what, if my grandfather and if their marriage had been scrutinized in the eyes of these white liberals today, there's no way that marriage would have lasted. They would have told my grandma, oh, you need to leave him because it's oppressive and you caught him cheating. You need to just leave him because, and then they say, oh, he's too much in the patriarchy. You need to go tell him about himself and da da da. And they don't understand. That's why you got the divorce rate so high. That's why these feminists can't keep their marriages together 9 times out of 10 unless they married to a little pussy ass man, because they don't know the first thing about how to have a peaceful, healthy, happy relationship, because all they want to do is fight. All they want to do is constantly attack, emasculate, cut your balls off, challenge you on every little issue over which color napkins to use. I mean, it's a mess. I personally think Black love doesn't fit with modern day feminism 9 times out of 10. I'm not saying it's not possible, but look around. Go look at how many divorces there are. Look at your friends. Look at your friends, and I want you to look at how many of them are actually able to stay married more than a decade. 99, most of them can't do it. Most of them can't do it. I'm not gonna say 99%, but I'm gonna say the percentages are very, very high. And it's important for Black people to be honest about that. It's important for Black people to say, okay, maybe some of what they're saying is right, but we need to control this conversation. Do not let white people take the wheel in a movement that is supposed to affect you. Because what they're going to do is they're going to drive you to neighborhoods that you don't want to go to, and they're going to put your ass in the trunk, and eventually when they get what they want, they're going to put your Black ass out of the car. Because you cannot tell me anything on an aggregate level, on any meaningful way, that has truly benefited Black people that has come out of the white liberal establishment. This Negro on the Roland Martin interview, we're going to keep going in a minute, all he can point to is, well, you have the civil rights movement. I just drove through some Black neighborhoods that look like fucking Beirut, that where the houses are busted up, broken down, torn apart. Black unemployment is still through the roof. Black people are still at the back of the bus. So how are you going to tell me that this little penny ante laws that white liberals have passed has made any significant difference in the state of affairs for Black people? It's made no difference at all. It took you from triple hell to double hell. And then they want you to clap for their asses. They want you to show them loyalty for the rest of your life. That doesn't make any sense to me. So honestly, just being real with you, when a Black person comes up to me and they say, oh, I work for the Democratic Party, I'm like, oh, well, I hope your mass is good to you. You know, good for you, because the Black community ain't getting none of that. This is maybe a couple of Negroes will get jobs. Maybe you have friends that went to Brown University like you who are going to get opportunities because of it. But you know what? After you get finished talking about the LGBTs and the immigrants and the white women, the white female feminists and all that, you ain't gonna have nothing left for Black people. Only thing they say about Black folks is they did take a stand on the whole issue of police killing Black men, but they've even thrown that off the table. How often you hear them talking about that now on CNN and all that? They let that go. You're no longer a fad. Dead Black men are no longer the fad that they once were. They're like the Black babies. When Brad and Angelina, all the Hollywood people wanted to start adopting Black babies, that's what happened with the liberals. They started adopting Black men shot by the police because it was a fad. And it was cool, and they put it alongside all their other little agendas, and now they just wiped that agenda off the table. So I don't have any faith in anything that they're doing. I think it's worthless. It doesn't help us. But anyway, let's keep going.
Yes, he has to be criticized on that, because a Black man needs to be with a Black woman, and it is a contradiction. I don't care how much work you think you've done for Black folks to not commit yourself to a Black woman.
Hold tight 1 second. I got more questions when we come back.
I would argue the reason Black men marry white women is because they wish they were white themselves, and having the white man's prize, his queen, is a psychological symbol to myself that I am equal to him.
We're back with Dr. Umar Johnson. In that particular statement, the family also addressed this here. You talked about taking over the buildings or the land of a black school that was shut down.
Yes, St. Paul's College.
And you were raising money for it. First of all, how much money has been raised, and what's the status of that project?
Well, St. Paul's has been sold. Approximately 3 to 5 months ago, I was told by the auction company in charge of the sale that it was been sold to a developer.
So how much money was raised? What the people gave? All the people gave. How much was raised, and what's the status of that?
$700,000. And the status is we're still looking for a school. And the status is my start date for FDMG will be 8/21/18, or if at all, it may be delayed to 8/21/19, which is the anniversary of the Nat Turner War.
We say looking for a school. Why not start a charter school? You can start a school.
Because charter schools are owned by the state, and I'm a Pan-Africanist. I believe what is to be done for Black people must be done by Black people. Why do I want a charter school?
So you want a private school?
Exactly. Independent school. Lauren.
So the question of
Okay, now about that school, here's what I think everybody should do. Some of y'all support Umar, some of you don't. I encourage you just to have an open mind and be critical in your thinking. You know, if you, I honestly, I think it should be shades of gray. There can be things you like, things you don't like, and that's okay. You know, you don't have to throw the baby out the bathwater, but you don't accept somebody unconditionally. You don't let somebody plant stuff in your brain without you processing it first to make sure it makes sense. So what my thought on this is that Umar gave a date. He said 8/21/18, 8/21/19. I say you write those dates down and you check to see if that academy is open on those dates. If the academy is open, then okay, that means that he actually finished the job. He got it done. It's good. If it's not, then I think you have a right to challenge that, especially if you gave money to the school. If you gave money with the expectation that the school will be built, then you certainly have a right to ask that question. I think also where Umar can make it easier for himself is by having a board, you know, a board of people that are going to be independent of him that can provide some transparency. I don't think that you can sort of have a bunch of money and put it over in the corner and, you know, in your pocket or wherever you want to put it and tell people like, well, what I'm doing with the money ain't none of your damn business. If I gave money, which I did, I gave money to the school, not because I knew for sure what was going to happen, but because I was like, well, you know what, I give money to white people all day long. We always give money to white folks. You know, when I bought this, you know, when I bought this ink pen or bought this cell phone, I gave money to white folks. So why wouldn't I give a little money to a guy who's doing something that is on average? I believe when the good and the bad are compared, I think that Umar does more good than bad. So why wouldn't I give him some money? And why is it that we would be so critical of what Umar did with, you know, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 when we're never critical of what Samsung did with the money that you gave them for the cell phone, or what Apple did when you bought their cell phone, or what, you know, McDonald's might have done when you gave them the money for your food, or what the company did who made this earpiece, or the company who sold me this notepad, or the company who sold me this shirt that I'm wearing. White folks get our money on a regular basis, and not once do we ever really question them and what they're doing with the money. We don't ask for the homie hookup. We don't ask, you know, we don't accuse them of being crooks because they're trying to sell us a product. We just buy. We do as we're told, right? But when you talk about black men and black women who start businesses, we suddenly want to become, you know, the FBI. We suddenly want to snoop and dig and ask questions and get mad and be outraged and call you a thief and call you a nigger and a liar and a horrible person. I don't agree with that. If my $25 that I gave Umar school, that's all I gave $25. I ain't gonna lie, that's what it was, you know. But I gave something, you know. If my $25, you know, went to paying for him to buy a plane ticket to go speak to black people, then I have no problem with that at all. No problem with that at all. Now, if it went to a strip-a-thon, maybe I would probably want my money back. But even then, you know, I don't know what these executives at Samsung are doing with my money. I don't know what the people at McDonald's are doing with the money, or people I bought the coffee from. I'm staying in a hotel. I'm staying in a Hilton. You know, I ask them what they did with my money? No, I don't. So I think that you have to kind of be fair in terms of how you look at that. But at the same time, I think that there is some degree of accountability that must occur. And I really wish Umar would. We're actually working to start a school too. We're starting a cyber school and stuff like that, and a homeschooling network. And one of the things that I believe is that you probably want to have a board, like a board of people, experts, educational experts, who can provide accountability and transparency, so that if somebody says, well, what's going on over there, you can show documentation. Farrakhan and I had that conversation when I was at on an economic panel committee where we got together for a meeting 3-4 years ago to talk about building wealth and building the economic infrastructure of the Black community. We talked about the importance of being able to account for what you did with the money. And so I think that if I was to advise Umar on any of this, I would say, look, in order for you to get the public's trust, you can't take it for granted, and maybe you got to regain it. And if you do, if people give you their money because they love you and they believe in you, you have to show respect by making sure that you can document what you did with that money. You know, now I don't think Umar is going to hear it because he don't want to hear nothing from me, and it is what it is. It's fine. But anybody out there who's thinking about collecting money on any level, that's what I encourage you to do. Just provide transparency. You know, if you have investors in your business, that ain't your money. That's their money. So just kind of keep that in mind. don't forget, if you want to know about our programs, especially our children's programs, stuff like that in the Black Business School, feel free to take a look at blackfinancialliteracy.com. That's blackfinancialliteracy.com. Also, if you want a free e-copy of my book, It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar, you can go to drboycewatkins.net. That's drboycewatkins.net. And then finally, if you want to know about our flashcards, we have some really cool flashcards for Black children to teach them about wealth. You can go to financialflashcards.com. That's financialflashcards.com. Now let's continue on this interview because I got to teach the Black Wealth Boot Camp in a few minutes. So I'm gonna have to run it out in about 10, 15 minutes. Let's see.
Interracial marriage.
Yes,
I mean,
ma'am.
come on, man. You're too smart for this. We got 43.
Smart for what?
We got 43 million Black people in this country.
And
We
that
got over
means what?
190 million white people. You're gonna sit here and say that
If
a
you got half
Black
the
person,
Black
a white person get married, a Black person, white person get married. One can't understand the other person's struggle. You've seen
It's not
Tim
about
Wise, right? You've seen
It's
Reverend
about
Wallace. You've seen white people who
empowerment.
understand racism very well.
That doesn't
The
mean you're
other
going to do
thing,
anything about
that
it.
is obviously true is they understand racism when you see things like the murder of Medgar Evers, like the murder of Martin Luther King. They understand racism.
And
just
what
fine.
did they do
They
about it?
understand us gaining just fine, and that's why murder happened.
Based on
right?
what?
So the idea that somehow a white person can't understand our struggle,
I
no way.
care less what they understand. I'm
No
asking
way.
you, what have they done systematically
He already
to
told you
improve
that.
the opportunities
He
of white
already
folks?
told you
He
that.
did not tell
Oh,
me
yes,
that.
you did tell
He
tell
did
me
not
that.
tell me that.
You're gonna tell me that guys like Tim Wise and Reverend Wallace don't understand
What about
race in
Tim
America?
Wise?
They don't understand race
He
in America.
articulates
They don't-
racism,
So
but
all
what has he done
there are no white
systematically?
people that understand race in
Mm.
America.
There's
There's
not
no
a
white
white
people.
person
There's
in
no white
America.
people
One
understand
second.
race in America.
There's not a white person. There's not a white person in America who has ever worked to systematically eliminate the white privilege that they benefit from vis-a-vis your oppressor. You're lying.
Now I'm gonna say this. I know Tim Wise, and I like the guy a whole lot. Real cool dude. Real cool dude. But Umar's right on that. There's nothing that white people have ever done systematically to truly address racial inequality in this country. And I think that Black people who go out and serve the Democratic Party and the white liberals and all that, y'all got to ask yourself that question. Like, what has really been occurring amongst whites where they are systematically working to eliminate even things like the economic challenges of Black people? I mean, really, really systematically eliminating that. So, funding and supporting Black businesses or doing anything that's going to be, beneficial to the Black community in a meaningful and relevant way, other than here's where the Democratic Party will help you out. Here's where the white liberals will always show up on a systematic basis. They will always show up to make sure that you have the ability to vote. They will always fight for your voting rights all day long, but they'll never truly fight for your economic rights. They'll fight for your voting rights. Why? Well, because they need you voting so that y'all can keep them in power. And then they can ignore you like they do every time they get elected. That's what they're trying to do. So ultimately, on that particular point, Umar is absolutely correct. I don't know who the woman was that was challenging him. I could tell she didn't like him from the moment she opened her mouth, which kind of says to me that the conversation was biased from the beginning. I think the only person, I'm going to come back and I'm going to talk about the rest of the panelists. I got to do the boot camp in a little bit, but I'm going to say that, I wasn't impressed with that woman at all. She sounded like, basically a standard Democratic Party talking head. She has no true equity in her own stake and positioning as a Black woman in America. Most of what she is attached to something that white people built. There are a lot of Black people who don't know who the hell they are. They're afraid to truly be who the hell they are. They're afraid to truly stand alone as Black people. And instead what they do is they gain their prominence and their capability by attaching themselves, hitching onto the white man's ride. That's pretty much what they do. And so ultimately that, I think that, the woman, I think she just, I mean, everything she was saying is almost like you could predict it before it came out of her mouth. She also does not even understand the difference between systematic and idiosyncratic. And let me explain the difference in case you're not sure. Systematic versus idiosyncratic is the difference between something that's done with broad systems that affect millions of people versus idiosyncratic, which is what one person might do one time for one issue, right? So Tim Wise is an idiosyncratic example. Tim Wise is not a system. He doesn't run IBM. Tim Wise does not, he does not run the federal government. Tim Wise is not, he does not run a major media outlet. Tim Wise does not have the ability on any level, nor does he have the resources to implement any sort of systematic plan to uplift 40 million African Americans. Really, I don't know how many people do, but there are systems in place that can do that. But oppression in America has been something where entire systems have, for centuries, set up laws to keep black people from having the same rights as whites, set up regulations that allow black people to be blocked through, things like redlining and stuff like that, or having their homes stolen and getting no compensation for what was taken from us. So that's the systematic racism that Umar's talking about. This lady's talking about one-offs, like, oh, we got a white guy over here who says that black people are not so bad, and that's all she can get. And so unfortunately what's happened is that she's the kind of black woman that's been trained to eat the scraps that the white man throws off the table at her like a dog, just like, here puppy, here, eat the scraps, and she's happy to get the scraps. Umar's saying, no, black people deserve to get the big piece of chicken at the head of the table. We deserve to be at the head of the table. And Umar's even saying, this is where Umar and I certainly on the same page. He's saying we should build our own table and eat the big piece of chicken because we bake the whole damn chicken, and this is going to be our kitchen too. And most black people who are affiliated with the white liberals, they don't even have the ability to think that way. They don't even know what a world looks like where they're developing their own schools. All they know how to do is know the difference between a public school and a charter school and vouchers. That's all they know. They don't know the first thing about developing an entire economic system. They only know the difference between a good job and a bad job, because that's all Massa offers them. They're offering them the superficial versions of racial equality. And what serious black people are aiming for, I'm talking about the legitimate Pan-Africanists are aiming for, what the legitimate people in the conscious community are aiming for, what the legitimate true builders in the black community are aiming for. And everybody should be conscious, by the way. I mean, the only alternative to being conscious is to be unconscious. And why would you be unconscious? I'm a conscious black man, but you ain't gonna see me in a dashiki. I don't know African history as much as I'd like to know it, but I'm still a conscious black man because I'm gonna fight white supremacy, and I believe in true sovereignty for black people. So that makes me a conscious black man. So yes, I am part of the conscious community. So what conscious people are aiming for is they're aiming to build and create something that is truly ours. So that means that when you talk about a media outlet, it ain't like, oh, I'm the Negro they hired on CNN. Who gives a shit about that? CNN will fire your black ass as quick as they hired you. When it comes to building economic power, it's not, oh, look at me, I'm the Negro who became the president at Xerox. Okay, good for you. That's nice, but that's still not your company. They can kick you out at any time. Or educationally, it doesn't mean saying, oh, I'm the Negro who went to Harvard and Brown and I have a degree from these white schools. No. People who are truly understanding the struggle are the ones who say, it's nice to go to Harvard and Brown, that's great, but at some point we're going to build schools of our own, because we need to be educating our own kids, not letting them get brainwashed by other people. A truly conscious black person is not somebody who says, oh, it's great it's great that we got these great jobs. We need more jobs. No. A truly conscious black person says, let's develop industry so we can own and create these jobs. You see, so that's what real power is. Like Malcolm X once said, he said, black power is not, being invited to the front of the bus. It's not even driving the bus. Black power is owning the damn bus, where you get to be the owner, the driver, and the passenger, because it's your own goddamn bus. So black people, go build a goddamn bus and stop trying to move from the back to the front of somebody else's bus, because it's still going to go only in the direction that they decide is going to go. Even if they let you be the bus driver, they're going to still radio in directions. Make sure you drive east, don't drive west. So a lot of these black people, unfortunately, are just not even there yet. Their grandchildren will be at that level. Their grandchildren will understand some of what you and I are talking about right now, but they can't understand it. And you can't really blame them, because a lot of them are just scared. They're either scared or they're ignorant. They've never been educated to believe that black people are capable of building something of our own. Also, they're afraid, because if they get out of line, their Democratic Party masters will whip their black asses. They will be blackballed. They will be banished from industries. They can't get another job, whatever it is. So ultimately, that's the battle you're fighting, and that's how it works in a nutshell. So again, I could probably criticize a lot of, with Umar, I don't really care about making friends. I ain't out here trying to make friends with nobody one way or the other. But I will say, I call it like I see it. In this situation, I feel like Umar was set up to be ambushed. I don't know if Roland told him what he was going to be up against, but I think also if Umar did know that these three people were going to be up against him, that shows that he has confidence in his beliefs. He has confidence in his intellect. And for that, I give him respect as well, because that's what they do. the liberals, the white liberals in blackface, which is what a lot of our so-called black intelligentsia on TV represent. The white liberals in blackface will conspire with the liberal establishment to discredit any black man or black woman they deem to be overly aggressive or overly direct in their disposition or outside the mainstream. Dr. Claude Anderson writes about that in Black Labor, White Wealth. He said most black people who are truly trying to lead the black people to real independence, real economic strength, will be discredited and attacked by black people who've been hired and promoted by the liberal establishment to come after them. That's why, let me give you a case in point. When Cornel West was not going along with the Barack Obama Bloc Party, when Cornel West was not really so much attacking Obama as much as he was just saying he needs to do more because black people are struggling, what happened? The white liberal establishment boosted up. I'm talking about Slate magazine and shit like that. You know, these white liberal media outlets. Media is a weapon. They boosted up Melissa Harris Perry and Michael Eric Dyson and paid them good money to tear Cornel West up, to discredit him. And basically they said, we will pay you money to destroy that nigga and make him go away. And they took the money. And that's why I was very disappointed in both of them. Now, if they had sat there and been silent about it, I wouldn't have had an issue with it. But the fact is that you have black people that are propped up to attack other black people because white people know that if they attack the black person, it's going to appear to be racist. But if they get a black person to attack that person, then it becomes legitimized. So ultimately, I think that's what it was. It was basically, you know, they tried to set him up, and I think Umar held his ground. I'm gonna come back and talk about the rest of the interview because I have to go teach the Black Wealth Boot Camp right now. But you know, you're not going to get me based on what I'm seeing so far. I'm not really seeing a lot of problems. Maybe areas I disagree. But I think Umar handled the interview very well. And I think that there are people who are going to understand his point of view. So even if you reject Umar, don't reject the cause. That's the other thing. That's the last point I want to make on this. A lot of people are trying to discredit the entire conscious community because they didn't like something about Umar. That's what you see those Negroes at the root doing, and I don't approve of it. I don't approve of it. You know, it's jacked up. It's like why are you discrediting the millions of black people who want to build because you're mad at one guy who you think has a personality that does not vibe with you? It's sick. It's really sick. But that's the sickness black people are dealing with, and we got to fight that every step of the way. Now I'm out of here. Do this real quick. If you're on YouTube or anywhere else, please hit the give me some thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, all that good stuff. Just support the movement and what we're doing here. Also, if you want a free wealth building lesson, free wealth building class, you want to get started on your journey. Every black person should be a wealth builder. Every black person should be a business owner. Every black person should be an investor. Every black person should be a producer. We are training millions of black people right now. We are in the process of getting our first black business school office in Chicago. Actually, it'll be our second office. Sorry. We got one in Louisville, Kentucky. We're going to have one in Atlanta. And believe me, after my conversation with Kenny Gamble, I think we're going to be in Philly. So we doing it. We moving forward, and we ain't going to stop, and ain't nobody going to slow us down. So we can use your support. Please go to drboycewatkins.net. That's drboycewatkins.net. You can get a free e-copy of my book. And don't forget the All Black National Convention takes place September 29th through October 1st in Louisville, Kentucky. I hope you'll mark it on your calendar and give us the honor of joining us because we are 100% serious and we're going to do the damn thing. So take care, everybody. I'll talk to you soon. I love you guys. Peace.